I really didn't expect Glaciela Regalia to be coming out in Global, but this is the time where she came out in JP, so maybe some players are going to be out of visiore after Final Fantasy VII, but maybe you have some lying around, or you're willing to spend some cash, in which case, maybe you should be pulling for Glaciela. Before we begin the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for the latest War of the Vision videos. Glaciela Regalia is a 100 cost fire unit with the new job Silver-Maned Princess. She also has the White Mage and Scholar sub-jobs, and she equips maces as her weapon of choice. Now this means that she's not going to have access to the staff-based vision abilities like Shadow Flare, but it also means that she doesn't have a weapon that provides any magic resistance penetration like the Cypress Pile does. However, she will be able to use mace-based vision abilities like Holy Knight's Purge, and also hopefully she'll be added to the Carbuncle card so she can use Ruby Rejuvenation. Glaciela's TMR is the Dress of Wazette. It gives HP, Spirit, and Critical Avoidance, and it has a 2-use TP ability that gives a 40% magic buff to her and her allies in a large AoE, and then it gives 20% magic resist penetration to the caster. This is going to be pretty important for her. Her master ability has the standard fire amp effect, but it also gives 10 AoE resistance and a casting time reduction of 200. Glaciela's stats are pretty good. Her 3000 HP is good for a magic attacker. It's about 300 lower than Helena's though. Her agility is high at 66, and her magic stat does look very nice at 542, but something to keep in mind is that she does not have any access to passive magic abilities, whereas most mages get 30% magic increase from a passive, and Helena gets 60% magic increase from a passive. Glaciela does get multiple boosts to magic attack, however, and I think that there is a reason for this. If you're on a budget and you want to leave Glaciela at 115, keep in mind that she will be losing out on 281 HP and 39 magic. Otherwise, there isn't a huge dip in stats. You will, however, miss out on a pretty rad job level 25 ability. Glaciela has the same resist as Helena, except for instead of a 15% slash resist, she has a 15% missile resist and 5% to slash. Her 20% magic resist is a great building point for fighting magic teams, but the slash resist is disappointing. That 15% missile resist though could be great for taking on lightning teams, especially since she has a counter reduction ability. However, we have to also keep in mind that Jaden's coming out, and while he does missile damage, it's magic based, and Glaciela does not have any innate spirit. We can also look at the status effect resists, and 50% to stun is very powerful, especially with Tifa having a 2-turn stun right now, and confusion resistance is always going to be important as well. Sleep resist isn't as big a deal, but it's the 10%, so that's fine. Let's take a look at Glaciela's kit, and we're going to start with the passives and the counters. So the secret of magic attack is Glaciela's best passive. You have to always equip this, always, right? And it's going to be upgraded further in EX jobs to provide 12 magic attack, 40% spirit penetration, and a 150 reduction in casting time, which is really 350 if you include the master ability. Otherwise, you're going to use the Scholar's Knowledge for defense and accuracy, or the preliminary chanting for another 200 casting time reduction. As for counters, just use Magic Reflex unless you're targeting specifically some physical only attack teams, and then maybe you're going to use just the Scholar counter, but Magic Reflex is generally going to be the way to go. Next up is the main kit for Glaciela, and there's some pretty interesting stuff here. Passionate Tact is going to be a 141% potency attack that also has a chance to inflict Berserk, which will come into play later. Magical Signal Smoke is going to raise allies' magic attack by 20, and then Glaciela's own magic attack by 50. Now, this is probably to account for the fact that she doesn't have any magic buffs on her passives, but then when you put this with her passive, that's 62 magic attack already, so that's a pretty serious boost. Area Explosion has a 50% spirit penetration, meaning you're going to get up to 90% with the passive, and it deals a huge 220% potency in a large AoE. This has the potential to be very, very strong against high spirit enemies, and just enemies that don't have magic resist or spirit to begin with. But it's also going to be very important that you have some magic resistance penetration from her TMR in case you are going up against enemies with a high magic resist. Scratch Bite is a 200% potency attack with good range. However, its modifier can grow even further if the target is inflicted with Sleep, Berserk, AP Restore, and Haste. This is also an instant cast spell. So while Glaciela can provide these status effects herself, the obvious synergy here is to run her with King Mont, and hopefully he will be berserking people with his Limit Burst. Owl's Impact is a 165 potency attack with an interesting 3-square AoE, but the other key thing here is that it's also an instant cast spell. So she has instant cast single target and instant cast AoE. Blue Purge is Glaciela's job level 25 skill, and it's pretty great. It has a 220% potency, big AoE, it reduces CT for all the targets that it hits, and this is going to allow your team to get the jump on your opponent and hopefully finish them off. As for Glaciela's sub-kit, she has Slipple Force, which is an AoE sleep spell, but it's also instant cast. Triple Bite is a 3-hit chaining attack, and then Roar of the Hungry Wolf is very interesting. It's a 141% potency skill, but it imperils magic resist by 38%. That is very, very strong, and I'm very curious to see how she uses it on auto. She also has the Scholar sub, and this is going to provide defensive buffs as well as a casting time reduction if you want it. It also has Law of Geo-Absorption, which is a terrific skill that gets around high magic resist. So this is going to be possibly essential for Glaciela because she doesn't have the same access to breaking through defenses that Helena has. However, this is not going to benefit from any of her magic attack up, and this may be why her magic stat doesn't get buffed in her passives, because they didn't want Law of Geo-Absorption to be too strong. It's only going to get buffed by your magic stat and any strike attack up that you have, and with that, it only has that 185% potency, which is big, but just compared to Glaciela's other attacks, obviously its main use is to get around people that have high magic resist. Glaciela also has access to White Mage, and there's some great spells there. She has all the good heals, but she doesn't have full life, and I just don't really think that there's too much to talk about here. I think that Halloween Little Leela really scared Gumi from putting full life onto attacking spellcasters, and we probably won't see it again on another attacking spellcaster unless they really want to push that unit. Glaciela's Limit Burst is very powerful. It has a 200% potency and a cross AoE with a very nice range. It also reduces counter chance by 100% for 3 turns. So you pair this with her 15% missile resist, and then watch her take on Cloud and Frederica all day. No reflexes allowed. This is also one of Glaciela's only Height 2 skills, so you will see her use it, and we're not even done yet because this LB is also going to give a 10% AP Restore for 3 turns for Glaciela. So you're going to want to level it in order to get the full AP Restore value, and of course the full 100% counter chance reduction. Next up, we're going to do a comparison to Helena. I'm going to put a big comparison chart up on the screen for you, and you can feel free to pause the video and take a look at this. Screenshot it, share it around, if it's something that's helpful to you, but otherwise, here we go. So we're gonna look at all the different utility and different things that these units have. So starting off with magic resist penetration. Helena has Glaciela beat here. She's got 20% innate and then 20 more from the Cypress pile, and Glaciela doesn't get either of those. She gets 20% from her active ability on her TMR, and that's only going to last for 3 turns, which is a good amount of time. And then she also gets 38% imperil on her sub job, and the question is, will she be using this? How consistently will she be using this? It has the potential to help out your teammates, but it's just not going to be as readily accessible as what Helena has. Then we can look at the magic stats, and again, Helena wins here because she might have lower magic, but she has a 60% passive buff. Now, of course, that Glaciela has her significant magic attack buffs as well, but still, just comparing raw magic stats, this is what we're looking at. We can also look at potencies, and Helena has her LB at 200. Everybody gets a 200 LB, but then the Devastation spell, that's 220. It's a big potency, but Glaciela gets a ton of big potency. She gets 200 on her LB, she gets 220 on multiple attacks, she gets 260 on that spell that scales with status effects. So she has the chance to, again, just because her magic stat doesn't get buffed like Helena's does, she's still going to have a chance to do lots of damage because of big potencies and because of her magic attack buff. Spirit penetration is the next thing we'll look at. Glaciela has 40% innate, and then she'll go up to 90% if she uses her ability that has 50%, and then Helena has a 30 spirit break. So she's she doesn't have penetration, but spirit breaks or any break in general can go underneath 0. So if somebody has 0 spirit, they're going to -30 when Helena hits them with her break. And then with utility, this is just basically like whatever utility you can look at. And Helena, you know, she has barrier breaks, 100% hit, and AP breaks. These are all really powerful things, and that make sure that 1, she's killing people, and then 2, that she can kind of, if she doesn't kill them, that they're not going to be that dangerous, you know, with the AP break. Well, Glaciela does have some cool stuff. CT reduction is going to allow your team to jump in there and finish people off. Inflicting berserk on people can take them out of the fight, even though they might deal lots of damage with physical attacks. The counter reduction might be something that's really powerful against any unit with reflex, or, you know, other units like Yuna with her Aeon bonds. And then being able to buff your entire team with magic attack, it's definitely good utility. I don't think the utility is quite as good for Glaciela as it is for Helena, but it's not bad. The next thing we'll look at is the VC options here, and then obviously Helena has her own VC, and it's just so good because not only does it give her a pile of agility, you know, it gives her a vision ability, all this stuff. The party ability is not limited to dark units. Everybody gets that agility, and that's really important because Glaciela doesn't have her own VC, but she kind of does. If you look at Encounter of Heroes, that's going to have a 50% fire magic buff, and that's actually going to be where Glaciela gets her magic stat from. If you give her Encounter of Heroes, that's going to be 50% magic that now makes up for her not having that passive. She gets slash resist from it, which she really needs, and she gets a ton of accuracy, which might help with that lack of 100% hit. So I think Encounter of Heroes is Glaciela's card, but the downside to that is that if you want to run her in non-fire parties, you're going to lose out on sharing those abilities. We can also look at Imperils, and again, Helena has this 38% Dark Imperiled instant cast. It's so devastating, and not all of her abilities are dark spells, so they don't all benefit from this or from Dark Attack up, but still, it's clearly a really powerful attack, and when we look at Glaciela, she does not have access to anything like that. And then the casting time reduction, you see how much Glaciela has, and you feel like, wow, this is going to be really powerful, but Helena gets basically the same amount on an ability that she's always going to be using. So, you know, Helena does it better with less skills and has, you know, some pretty good passives that she can use anyway. Whereas you need to stack a lot of stuff with Glaciela to get a comparable amount of casting time reduction. However, if we look at the next point, Glaciela just gets strong instant cast spells, whereas Helena, aside from her LB, doesn't have very strong instant cast spells at all. So, you know, Glaciela actually does kind of win there. With the casting time reduction, that's going to come into play, but the strong instant cast spells, that's pretty huge. And then the final point is just about counter elements. So Glaciela is going to be countered effectively by water. That's just the fact. She's going to do less damage to them. They're going to do more damage to her. Whereas with Helena, she is very strong against her counter. Yes, light units will do lots of damage to Helena, but Helena has the chance to kill them first, and that is really, really key. Whereas again, with Glaciela, she doesn't have that chance to kill water units easily, and that's just such a huge disparity when you want to compare the two units. Let's look at the pros and cons for Glaciela. The pros are that she's got great stats. She can stack a lot of defense. I think she can take on physical teams fairly well. Her CT reduction is very powerful as well, and that's going to allow your team to just get up there and womp on your opponents, hopefully before they can act. Big potencies on all of her skills means that she'll do lots of damage even without that innate magic boost, and the casting time reduction plus the instant cast spells, she's not really going to be worried about, you know, getting killed while she's casting. I really don't think that will be a problem for her. And then the counter chance reduction is going to be strong against a lot of units, and it's something that you'd want to pull her for. As for the cons, no 100% hit or barrier break are definitely concerning. The 100% hit is a little bit mitigated by Encounter of Heroes, as that's going to give you a lot of accuracy, but that means you have to be using that specific VC. The barrier break means that if you're fighting anybody with magic barriers, that you straight up can't take those out, and that's going to reduce a lot of damage. The fact that her magic resist penetration is tied to her TMR reduces the amount of builds that you can use with her, and it's something that is going to be really important unless you're using your Scholar sub for the Law of Geoabsorption. That's going to take some testing to see how that all works out. And the fact that she doesn't have any innate magic stat buff on her passive roster is, again, it's kind of a bummer because that really doesn't help out Law of Geoabsorption, but she does have significant magic attack buffs, and that is going to basically mean that she will do lots of damage. It's not like she's going to deal less damage for that lack of magic. She gets other ways to raise her magic, and her potencies are really strong as well. And then she's just hard countered by water, and I'm putting that in there. And I know that's the fact with every element except for dark, that you're going to have this hard counter, and it's still important to mention because water is a very popular element. We just got a new water scholar with Summer El Sorel, so, and Aerith just came on as well, so people will have water ready to go, and that is going to be something that you're going to have to face on arena and guild battle. So we come to the question, should you pull for Glaciela Regalia? I think it's a difficult question, to be honest. A lot of players are going to be spent after the Final Fantasy VII collab, and many others are going to be saving up for King Jaden, and don't forget we also have the Tomb Raider collab coming as well. So if you do decide to pull for Glaciela, then she's undoubtedly going to be powerful. I don't think that anybody's going to be disappointed if they pull for her. However, if you are expecting another Helena, I don't think that she's going to be it, and that's something that you have to keep in mind. That's going to be it for this video. I hope it was useful for you, and if it was, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more War of the Visions content. And then otherwise, you can also join us on Discord. We have the Mysidia game Discord, War of the Visions channel. It's bumping, and there's lots of new players joining and getting help. So if you want to ask questions, please come on board and ask some questions. Otherwise, I'm going to see you in the next video.